What do we think about when we think of Norway? One of the world's wealthiest nations, certainly Europe's massive production of oil and natural gas, a phenomenal pension fund which started based in oil and gas, and now it's investing in more alternative energy. The Vikings, certainly. What you don't think about when you think about Norway is Christianity, or better said, churches. Now that would be totally wrong, because in Norway we have some of the most beautiful ones. This channel is not a particular fan of organized religion. Now the Norwegians have managed to construct a masterpiece of a church that resonates with the folklore and the history of the Vikings and the whole mystique. Let's have a look. So this is what we call a stave church. These churches were built almost 1,000 years ago, right after the Viking era. This one is one of the few that survived. It's a whole garden on top of that roof. This is a typical Viking village. These people were masters at plainsenga. Look at this. Let's not. Let's see. Fortunately, I cannot go inside, but this is a Viking household. We have the feathers, we have the more feathers, guardrobe. I can literally picture the inhabitants of such a place getting ready to storm upon your neighborhood. We have hostilities. Go on, he's stealing your wife. Many wives. This is a local Viking graffiti artist. Probably a depiction of his mother or his sister with one leg. The other one was chopped off in war.
So in the Viking ships, it's all with these dragon heads on, so the people don't know something like that before. They were thinking, oh my god, what's coming now? So maybe the devil himself, when he throws his hammer, it's always coming back into his hand again.
Exit the roundabout onto Riksvei 13. Continue on Riksvei 13 for 3 kilometers. Head southeast on Valevik Tunnel in Friberg, Felsvei 572.
We literally have a roundabout in a tunnel. So it's 7 in the morning and we are in Trolltunga. Now Trolltunga translates the troll's tongue, and it's apparently one of the highlights of one's visit in Norway. Right, so here we are, and this is what we still have. You can probably see the trail there. I cannot believe how hot it is, despite all the snow. I mean, still, this is Norway, right? We have a waterfall, my friends. This particular one does not share the splendor and the glory of the one yesterday, but still. It could be worse. Alright, this is by far one of the most majestic wonders of nature that I have ever seen. Almost. Alright, so we're going to Preikestolen, which is another landmark of this country.
Yo soy como los perros, jadeo mucho. Uy, al principio. Oh my god.
Vale, tomando, Mamma quiere.
Right. We have the crowd, my friends. Bloody hell, this is high. It's also gorgeous. This is quite a steep trail, to be honest. And when you come up, it's a pain. But when you go down, it's even worse. I am completely alone in comparison to what was going on when I was coming up. This is a bliss. I actually found myself trying to stop and give way to people because they were making hell of a lot of noise. Really? Norway is ridiculously expensive. I mean, these people produce their own oil and they sell it with prices like they are importing it. Now they have the fund which takes care of the locals and the pensions. But still, I mean, come on. We're still talking about a country that's inhabited by almost 5 million people, and it has the length of Europe. I mean, we're almost 20 million in the Netherlands. We fall onto each other. Come on now. Do something about this oil and gas. Make it cheaper. Now. All right. What a place. It will be warm. That one here is the hospital. This is the hotel. Right, so let me elaborate on what happened, how we ended up here. This is actually a hotel next to the hospital, or part of the hospital of Stavanger. It's quite interesting. So the camping had these tin cabins where we were supposed to sleep. Now that proved an adventure, not only because it was extremely hot because of all the sunshine, but we had mosquitoes storming upon us. You could barely see through the mosquitoes. I actually made the executive decision to get out of that place. Anyway, what's going to happen now? My sweet cousin demanded some leisure. So, yeah, we booked a cruise.
Meters, about 1,460 feet long. It has a sailing height of 50 meters, or 164 feet. In 1999, the bridge... Lysefjord. It takes about 2 hours to hike along to the top.
Og selve fjellet, men det
We stopped once again to admire this beauty. Look at the state of this house. Corona. The Satanist barn. Let's see if there is any sort of way in. Well, no way in still. It's a masterpiece done by nature, weather, and people who don't really care about it. This is happening actually quite a lot in Norway. We see a lot of abandoned or semi-abandoned places like this. This is Norway, my friends, not the Greek islands. Norway. Back in the 9th century, a Viking monarch, Harald Fairhair, must have been a very blonde fellow, managed to unite all the kingdoms of Norway into one sovereign state. In his honor, this was made. Now, this monument is actually a symbol of peace, because these 3 swords are firmly stuck into the stone so that nobody can lift them up. Of course, Norway, as a sovereign state, didn't last that much. In the 14th century, Denmark came upon them. And basically, this unification with Denmark, what it actually meant was that the Danes would command stuff and the Norwegians would follow. This whole situation lasted for about 400 years. In 1815, Norway managed to escape this horrible connection with Denmark. And immediately after came the Swedes. Now, the Swedes were very fond of Norway. And they should be, because it's a lot more beautiful. No offense. However, Norway had absolutely no sympathy towards the Swedes. So basically, they made some sort of equal union with a little bit of warfare. And finally, in 1905, they did become the sovereign state that we have today. A very poor state, mind you, because back then there was no oil, no gas, no nothing. What the Norwegians did have, however, was a lot of fish and a lot of sea in order to hunt them out. Have we here? We have a Viking thing.
Skal vi se de slåss? Publikum! Nei! Nei, 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 nei! Det var ikke sånn det skulle gå! Kjempene klare! Wow! Det her var jo meget som det holdt på!
That was it, I guess. Finally, we witnessed the bloodthirst and the brutality of the Vikings.
24 hours later, an almost incomprehensible picture emerging tonight from Norway.
It begins to sink in. We are learning more about how ruthlessly this plan was carried out.
On the 22nd of July 2011, a car bomb exploded in the government area in Oslo. The responsible for this attack wanted to make a point against what he perceived to be a treacherous government. At the same day, a couple of hours later, the same man drove here to this incredibly peaceful area. He went with his boat to that island, dressed as a policeman, and managed to murder 88 people. Now, the memorial plate does not mention the name of the person who did the deed. That particular person managed to do absolutely everything, following the legal routes. The same person who was literally shooting children actually managed to do absolutely everything following legal routes. And that should not be forgotten.
This yellow tent right back here, that's where the ferry comes in. That's also where the shooter boarded the ferry to take him to the island. One witness we spoke to says he was so convincing as a cop that officials from the island even came over to the ferry here, checked his credentials, and let him on.
He was uniformed as a policeman.